I believe that Terrarians often speedrun the game to Moonlord and never take their time on their worlds. I want to change that. So over the course of a year, I will be playing on this one world, with each stage of progression being blocked until the start of a new month. I'm doing this so I can seriously take my time in each stage of Terraria's progression and see what it has to offer. So for the month of March, I've only been allowed to defeat the Queen Bee. That's right, just the Queen Bee. Otherwise, I can make no other form of progression. This is what happened. March is the first month of the year where I can only defeat one boss or event. Considering how I had already accomplished just about everything that I could do in pre-hard mode at this time, I wasn't very optimistic going into this month. But it was only week 1 of the month, so at least I could still defeat Queen Bee. So I went to the jungle and made an arena at the first hive I found and started my first fight. I immediately died a humiliating defeat. During the fight, I had attempted to keep doing the class swapping I had wanted to become proficient at during the last month, but I had overlooked the fact that only one class had a horseshoe and Terra Spark boots, while the other two had considerably worse accessories. I also discovered that switching classes was a bit difficult with a faster boss like Queen Bee, but considering how several hard mode bosses are also fast, I knew that I would have to improve my class swapping skills if I wanted my alternate builds to be useful. I lost 2 more fights against Queen Bee until defeating her on the 4th attempt, a rather poor performance for a so-called Terraria veteran. I tried for a while to keep using my melee and ranger builds, but after each fight, I kept leaning more heavily on the ranger build, finding that a melee build just wouldn't work with the arena I had set up. Another blood moon happened, and I finally got the money trough I've been looking for all year, which was very helpful. I then got to farming the bee for the bee's knees and the master mode pet. It took quite a while, and after defeating the Queen Bee, I decided to create a room for my crafting stations. I loaded up the world on the second week and figured there was at least one thing I could do. It wouldn't serve any real purpose other than being a flex, but I decided to do it anyway. I built a new arena on the surface of the jungle and got to fighting the Enraged Queen Bee. After failing, I remembered that the Old One's army was a thing, so I fought it once before returning to the Queen Bee, figuring that having a sentry could be useful. On the second try, I failed again. I went back to the Old One's army since I hadn't gotten the war table. Before going back to the Enraged Queen Bee, I ended up getting the infinite honey bucket from the angler for the first time in my life, so that was exciting. On the third attempt, I defeated the Enraged Queen Bee, performing better with the Enraged Bee than the regular bee. I don't know what that says about me, but whatever. I put up the trophy on the arena and the treasure bag on display as markers of my victory. I then defeated the Old One's army again and got the Old Mage's Tome, which I wasn't really impressed with. Sorry if you like it, but I don't get it. To finish out the week, I built a little house with a honey pool, did some lava fishing, and wrapped up with a little golf. When I logged into the world, a blood moon was happening, but I already had all the drops I could ask for from it. I still spent some time messing around and killing the enemies for fun of it, but the sun rose and I got back to golfing. I had been golfing this whole time because I wanted to get the golf cart, but after I got to a high enough level, I discovered you couldn't actually get the golf cart until after Skeletron, which struck me as an odd limitation. Out of spite, I purchased a golden trophy and set it up in my house. It was at this moment I decided to do something I'd never done before. I made my way to the Crimson so I could dig around it and prevent its spread in hard mode. Along the way, I even saw something I had never seen before, and that was 2 meteorites that landed right next to each other. I decided not to mine it because I thought it was cool. This world had 2 crimson biomes, and they were right next to each other, with only 2 living trees separating them. This kind of made things a little easier, which was nice. A whole lot of dynamite later, and I had dug a path wide enough to prevent the crimson from spreading. I knew a new crimson would spawn once in hard mode, but at least this would help control the spread a bit. I then decided I should get some materials to get the Terra Spark boots for each class, especially since I had only the Spectre boots for the Mage class. I went to the jungle to get the Anklet of Wind, and my imp made an assassination attempt. It worked. After that debacle, I found the Anklet of Wind and finished off the week by finding some ice skates in the tundra. I started week 4 realizing that I still needed one more pair of ice skates, so I went back to the tundra to get some. I also decided to do some lava fishing, hoping imps would spawn so I could get the obsidian rose for the lava waders. But after about a half hour, I got bored and decided to do something else. When I returned home, I took another look at whatever this is and decided I needed a proper trophy room. So I spent most of my time building that. I finished off the day fighting the Old One's army one more time for good measure, and thought that my base looked kind of ugly, and decided to update it. One thing that this month has been making me think about is what it would be like to be absolutely new to the game once again. What if there was no wiki and no YouTube, and I had to learn how to play this game all on my own? Maybe someday I can find someone who has no prior knowledge and see how they navigate the game without any help. Regardless, I wondered if my pace in the game progression was similar to someone new to the game. I felt as though the casual play style this challenge has forced upon me is how a new person would interact with the game. Sure, I knew all the things and was able to race to each objective, but I still found myself curiously tinkering with the different mechanics and options available to me. And with the next month opening the door into the dungeon, I wonder what I should expect to happen next.